Guys, welcome back. On today's episode, we have the fastest Irish lady in Hyrox, Aoife Fay. She's a teacher. She's a ex-triathlete, I think, on pentathlete and tetrathlete and every athlete you can be. She's done some CrossFit, and now she's gearing up to crack into the Elite 15. There's Last Chance Qualifiers coming up this weekend in Barcelona. We've seen you are training hard for it, and this chat is going to be super exciting to find out more about you. You're definitely one of the rising stars of Hyrox right now. So thank you so much for making the time to join us because we know how busy you are. And yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah.
Oh no, we're glad we could make this work. And I know that you're probably, well, maybe going into a bit of a taper just now, ready for the weekend, but you've still been training hard. Before we get into Barcelona and this weekend, we wanted to kick off with your race in Dublin. And if you feel like you had a bit of a mindset shift after that race and thought, okay, yeah, I'm really in with a chance here, because I believe it was a 103 you ran, was it, in the female pro?
Yes. 103.22.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So is it now kind of like, was that a kind of pinnacle race, or how would you describe that? And then after you finished that race?
Yeah, it was really strange because that was actually my first pro race of this season and my second ever pro race. So it was a race, and I think maybe I've had one other race like that whereby you finish and you're kind of in a little bit of disbelief that happened. Like it was believable because I had worked all summer, and very hard, and I was fully committed. But I expected to get that time kind of in late spring, as opposed to getting it straight away in my first race of the season. So I was happy, but I also I'm very critical of myself. And I would use that, I think with a professional athletes, or, people trying to get into the elites, that's probably a character trait once it's not becoming destructive. And I definitely use it to my potential and my advantage. But I wasn't fully happy with the race at all. I felt by the time I got to the lunges, I didn't have the usual fight I had, and that concerned me. But overall, it was a great race. It definitely instilled, it kind of got my season. It kicked it off pretty hot, and ever since then, yeah, it's been kind of a forward and back movement, and I've made a few changes, actually quite a lot of changes lately. So I'm really looking forward to Barcelona this weekend.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, it was a crazy race to watch because like we were watching it on the socials because Lucy Proctor obviously went, and you guys had a bit of a battle, didn't you? But I think, yeah, we were looking at your Instagram, and you said it was kind of a turning point, as in you realized you like the Elite 15 was possible, and like maybe it was in your reach that you could get into the Elite 15, and you are right up there. I mean, a 103 at the beginning of the season is an incredible place to start. Did you break down the race after? Was there anything you thought you needed to work? Like, was it the running aspect? Was it the back end of the race? If you said you lost your fight, has there been anything you focused on since that race to improve your time?
Definitely on the physical end and the mental end. So physically, some of my areas of weakness were definitely exposed, or areas I see I need more confidence in. So my burpees and my lunges. Lucy actually, I think she caught me on the lunges. So, and it's even more obvious as I continue to race that those areas needed work. So we're still working on those. And my running, it was good in Dublin, but there's, I think in Hyrox you can always you know, there's always room to take 5 seconds off per kilometer. And that's what I was, 5 to 10 seconds was, I was like, by the end of the season, I'd like to be taking that amount off my runs. But I think more and more I'm realizing that Hyrox is so much about how well can you manage fatigue. That's actually, I think, an athlete trait that, just as being a good runner and being strong, it's about managing fatigue. So I've been working on that. And yeah, so definitely kept the running going. I've changed coach a few times since, so there's been a lot of movement there. I'm still finding the way I want to do this, because I definitely have experience, and I think I've learned that I want to do this the way, kind of, to a degree, my way, you know, and I need to work with someone who will value my experience there. And a lot of coaches, they just want to coach, and so I get that. So that's been an important change recently. But then on the mental side, it's an ever evolving progress. Even every race I do, it's like a whole physical evaluation, but also mental evaluation. And I feel, for myself, I'm very intuitive, and I'm more so than I realized as an athlete, hence why I need to have a bit of have say in what I'm doing and the type of sessions I'm doing. So definitely this week I'm working on my thoughts, and like I said, as I race, and I feel like on the mental side with me, it's always going on, and it's unfolding after everything I do. Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but I do different things after every race to sharpen myself physically and mentally, yeah, based on the feedback the race has given me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that does make sense. Like, and like you say, you can evaluate your performance, and you can learn from it. Is mental and physical. It's not just physical, or my time could improve here, or this section could improve. It's the whole thing as a performance. And like you say, completing it under fatigue, that's one of the biggest things, like managing the whole race and pacing the race, and then your mental talk to yourself during the race. It's like Hyrox isn't just I do 1K, I do an exercise, I do 1K, I do an exercise. It's so much more than that, for sure. So are you self-coaching at the moment, or in the lead up to Barcelona? And do you mind maybe giving us a bit of background for the listeners, like of your background and all the triathlons, heptathlons, pentathlons that you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm not self-coached. I just don't have, I work full time, so I wouldn't even want to take that on myself. I'm working with a guy from Scotland, Steve Fitchett, at the minute. And this time around, it was most important that I found someone who I connected with on a person level, because I've learned over the last few months what is important to me as an athlete, what I need to feel empowered, how I can also what I need to build confidence on a relationship side of things. They were the boxes I was looking for, because I learned again over the last few months the type of training I feel like I need to do to build confidence and to be empowered. And so I have a bit of a handle on that training wise. I wouldn't yet want to do all of that programming myself. I think I definitely want to go down that route soon, but I would want to be an expert in a way first before I took that on. So yeah, working with someone who, on a person level and emotional level, that's where I need the support, as opposed to, because I'm always gonna critique my training program that I get to make sure that it's ticking the boxes for my confidence, and and that's just me. And I think that comes from the intuition I have with my body and what training it needs. So I receive my program and I will look at it, and 90% of the stuff I do will be, or already on the program. So it's just a bit of liaising with my coach. And my coach at the minute, he really lets me be myself as an athlete and supports that, and doesn't get offended if I'm asking, well, I feel like I might need more of this or less of this, because I feel like it's my responsibility as an athlete, because I know what I need to build confidence. So I need to communicate that. And I think it's almost impossible for the coach to be, unless they're working with you for years or a long time at least, to tap into that. That's on my end. I'm hooked up to that side of things. So that's my coaching revelations over this season, really. But sorry, to get back to my history, I've actually done multi-sports all my life. It's definitely a part of me now. It's how I express myself. I started off just swimming, and I did a lot of gymnastics as a child and a young teen. Loved that. It really ignited that, or showed me how much I love being around people training and around good coaches and that environment. Ultimately, I decided to go in the route in a different direction then, of running and swimming. That led to a sport called tetrathlon, which is 4 sports. So it's swimming, running, horse riding, and shooting. And I really, that's where that event, there was a huge social side, because it's not an Olympic sport, but there was a big social side to that, because it was in the Irish Pony Club. I think you guys have that that also exists, I think, where you guys are from.
I have no idea about horses.
Scotland,
okay.
Em will know.
Yeah, Faye not so much, but yeah.
You've probably heard of it.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's not serious. There's always room for you to be a serious, teenage athlete doing that if you want to be. However, I was just like, all I was interested in was the competition. I always felt like I was just amped up on another gear than I suppose most of the people around me that were also competing. So I suppose there's signs all along the way, right? But then I went in a natural segue from tetrathlon. If you are competitive and you want to try to go to the Olympics, or at least world level, was pentathlon, which is an Olympic sport, and it's swimming, running, horse riding, shooting, and fencing. So I did that for maybe 2 years. At the same time, I started triathlon, which is obviously swimming, running, and cycling. And I got to a point where I was deciding which way to go, and I chose triathlon, which was definitely I didn't really like the fencing, so it was really hard on my knees. I think in my first year, I had a knee issue with the fencing. So, and 3 was enough, at least at the time, I thought. Yeah.
You have to hold a squat when you fence. You almost go in a kind of squat hold, don't you?
Yeah, you in a kind of like a side lunge.
Yeah.
Like a lateral lunge. It's really, you'd have really strong quads after it. But it was it's totally claustrophobic. Like, you have a full headset and gear. Like, it just shows you need to be good at, and to actually go the full way with anything, you just need to the type of training you need to be mentally connected and physically connected to that type of training. So went into triathlon, did that, stuck to that, was competitive with that for years. And that my goal was the Olympics was always, that's just as a teenager, like that was what I woke up thinking about for years, you know. And yeah, that was going to be my path. And I got a scholarship to Scotland, actually, to study biology and do triathlon. And that was the first time where I was in a place where I had everything, you know, there, because it had always been such a struggle logistically with the training, because we live in the country and, you know, I couldn't drive. I was too young to drive at the time. So getting to training was, you know, always a stress. So did that. The scholarship team there actually took a break after. I actually left the squad after a year and a half. And it just wasn't. I was basically burnt out, and I was really, my quality of life. I knew to be successful at this, I knew I needed to be getting enough back compared to what I was putting in. And at that point, I was just the environment, I think, the schedule, the demands, it was just too much. And I stepped away and I found a CrossFit gym. And for 3 years, 2.5 years, I didn't go near a competition for 2 years, didn't want to, just worked on CrossFit. And the thing about it is, I really, my favorite CrossFit sessions were basically Hyrox sessions. So people used to say to me, would you not like do what you're bad at? You know, I remember this guy, and I'm still friends with him now, and he said, well, yeah, but would you not come in and work on your weaknesses? Like barbell work, like Olympic weightlifting. And I was like, well, like in my head, I was like, why would I do that? Like, if I'm going to be really successful, I need to be doing what I love, you know? And I think being a practical guy, he was like, what? Like, so we still have it now. But anyway, yeah, then I came home, I got back into it was itching for something different. I knew there was something else there for me. I remember saying to one of my old tri coaches, because he was saying, you know, you could go at this again. And I was saying, yeah, I know, but it's not CrossFit, but it's not triathlon I'm looking for. It's something in between. And then I remember I said to my brother around that time, I said, I wish there was something that combined CrossFit and triathlon. And I said that I was standing at the bottom of the stairs and my brother was at the door. And then it was about maybe just 2 weeks later, I came across this sport, Hyrox. It hadn't reached Ireland yet, but I was kind of in tune with what was going on in the UK because I had friends there so I was back in Ireland at this stage, sorry. So I was more in tune than probably most people here about the UK fitness situation and the developments. So I just knew then in that moment that this is what I would do, and it was just a matter of time before I committed to it, because had just started a master's degree, and like it hadn't even come. I couldn't afford like to even travel. Our time was very limited with the degree, so I just knew it would be a matter of time. And then the month I qualified or got my master's degree, I joined a CrossFit turned Hyrox gym.
In Ireland. Whereabouts in Ireland are you based?
Do you know Drogheda? It's like the northeast, so Northeast. 1 hour north of Dublin, basically.
Okay, cool. And do you have a gym like close to you? You said that gym, was that close, or did you have to like travel to that?
Yeah, so it's close. It's about
Oh,
15
cool.
minutes from my house where I'm living at the minute. So yeah, they weren't actually. Another funny thing is I joined the gym and my goal was Hyrox, but I didn't know did they do it. So I just was getting back into kind of CrossFit functional training because I knew it would all help. And then 2 weeks later, they became Hyrox affiliated gym. So that was good. It's you know it's helpful to have to be a part of an affiliate. I guess it's not necessary, but I suppose it was a reassuring sign.
It's almost like everything just fell into place. Eh? You got That's why I was wondering how close the gym was, because like it's almost like you did the triathlon, you went to CrossFit, you were just like, oh, something's missing. Then you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I've heard about this Hyrox, maybe that'll work. I'll go to this gym. Oh, now it's an affiliate. Like everything just seemed to, yeah, roll into place. Sometimes things are meant to be, aren't they? And obviously this is do you feel now that this is the sport for you? This is what you've been looking for?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, no training, no training type of training or sport I've done before compares to the fulfillment I get from forget about competitions and all of that. But in terms of the day-to-day training, the training split, the ratio of aerobic to anaerobic to strength training sessions, that's all that template uh, is what I enjoy more than any type of training I've done before. So, and that's what is going to sustain you, I think, through all the sports I've done. You eventually realize, well, what worked or what's working? What are the necessary ingredients to do something, to excel at it and stay there? Because if any athlete knows, it's not an easy journey. So much happens. I would say for me, the training is the easiest part of the whole process. It's where I am my happiest. It's where I don't question myself. That training session is why you do it. The management of everything else is the real challenge. So to me that's a testament of if you're going to if you have to stay through all of the challenges, you have to have that just innate connection to the type of training you're doing. Because I've done other sports and challenges happened and not I ultimately I don't think I think it was the right decision for me to leave other sports based on what I'm experiencing now. But I think that connection to the type of training you're doing mentally, physically, emotionally is essential to make it through everything that's going to come your way.
Yeah, totally. I think you've explained, like it's the process and the journey, isn't it? You have to enjoy that. Otherwise, what's the point? That's what takes up the most time and becomes your life. Like the race is over in an hour and 3 minutes. Like that's it, done. So
absolutely. And it's like, especially I realized this season, especially because I definitely since Dublin haven't reached my peak. And it makes you realize that it made me realize that I like all this charged energy coming into a race. Then you do the race, and when it goes well, it's amazing. It's fulfilling. It's encouraging. You get energy. Everyone congratulates you. It's all great. If it doesn't, or if you have kind of a flat race in your life, oh, like take it or leave it, nothing great, nothing bad, have a few of those. You think that things might change when you come home in yourself, like you might lose encouragement, or oh, you mightn't have the same level of, kind of the same engine. But I've learned that, again, if you are connected to what you're doing, the race is over. You come back. I literally go back to doing the exact same thing. It doesn't, it's like unaffected. You're unaffected by that internal drive, desire is kind of unaffected by the race, because this is your life, and this is, at the end of the day, it's your quality of life. And if this is what, doing this thing is what sustains you on a personal level, forgetting about everything else, you know, the training gear, the clothes, the Instagram, the race results, that's all, none of that happens without you being connected to your craft, I guess.
Yeah, it's such like, I mean, I don't think we've really had this point. I mean, we've had the like enjoy the process and in like and the love for the sport, but I think you've like eloquently like put it out there about like finding that if nobody was watching and you had to go back into your life and Instagram didn't exist and there wasn't a race, would you still want to train like this? And would you still, and like exactly what you're saying, I mean, I think we come from like a similar background, as in like we've done a lot of like endurance stuff and a lot of strength, and we've always liked both and always done different things, and then Hyrox has kind of brought it together. And the type of training, like every day when we go, I don't think there's a day when we don't enjoy the training. Sometimes you might not want to get there, or you're tired, or you're fitting it in, but actually when you're training, that's the sometimes like, well, probably is most times the best part of the day. And I think when you find that love for it, it's easy to be consistent, and a lot of people can't get the consistency, but maybe like you've just stated, and you find this a lot as like a coach or a PT, if people don't enjoy what they're doing, they're never going to stick at it. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I have to run because that's what people do to lose weight. And I'm like, if you don't enjoy running, don't run, because you'll never stick at it. Like you said, find that passion.
That's where the magic is. That's where, and this is, I've struggled a little bit with this with Kate, with other people, that, you know, people would ask me, how are you so disciplined? And I'm like, I'm not disciplined. It takes like zero, not zero, but a lot of the time actually zero willpower to go to training. That's where my fun is. Ask me about my bedtime routine. Ask me about, you know, my morning routine. Ask me if I've graded, you know, my schoolwork yet. That's where that's my challenge. You know, staying on top of everything. That's where, so I think there's a lack of awareness in the area of what, you know, what is innate motivation, what is innate discipline, because if you're on the money with what you're doing, those things are there, in my opinion. From my experience, those things are there. I've done things, and I do things that, you know, I have to do in order to keep things going, you know, that I don't feel that level of enthusiasm. But I think it's just about, I really think that for anyone to do well and excel in themselves, we need to focus, we need to put our energy somewhere. You know, and I tell people, if I didn't do this, you know, if I didn't put my energy into training, because that's where I am my best, I'm my most exuberant, confident, all of that, I would self-destruct. Like, I've taken time off training for 2 years. It was actually, I'm very curious. So and I have to watch that, because I can do things just to the extreme and unnecessarily. So one thing a lot of people don't know about me is that during those 2 years that I took time off training, I actually went out and did all these like experiments on myself. And because I studied science, so it's just the way I think. And I wanted to check, why was I doing this? Like, was I doing this because I was like, I basically wanted to check I was doing sport for the right reasons, you know? So I took it away on purpose. I took it away to see what would happen to me as a person, what would happen to me mentally, emotionally, physically. So it was like a science experiment. And I will never forget that time. I know I just make my life really hard sometimes. And like I said, I need to keep tabs on that. I don't really do that now, because I got to a point where I was like, okay, life is way too hard anyway to not play to your strengths. That's when I made the decision to go back. So, but I'm proud of myself that I'm definitely, I wasn't afraid to take off all of my armor, because I think I was afraid at the time that I was using training as a way to, like, as an armor. Like, who am I without training? Can I survive life then? Like, that's what the question I wanted to answer. So yeah, that happened.
Yeah, I think it's important though, because it's gonna annoy me that I can't remember who put it up, but I did see something the other day, and someone, I think maybe it was John Wynne, said to Graham Halliday because they just competed in the doubles and they were having a chat beforehand or something. I might have got this a little bit wrong, but the point was, like, after all of this, like, who are you as a person? Like, you know, as much as it's important to have your passion and train hard and do what you love, and you can dedicate so much time and energy into it, like, there is also the bigger picture, like you've kind of said, who am I and what am I without it all, because you have to also be at peace with that, because it will come to an end at some point, like, and that might be in 20 years time, it might be in 3 years time, it might, like, you know, you never know what's going to happen. Unfortunately, we don't know what's going to happen the next day, but it was kind of like that point of, as much as you want to give everything to it, like, you also need to, you know, appreciate your family, make sure that your life is happy and you are enjoying what you're doing, and it is all the other stuff around it. So no, I think it's like, it is interesting, maybe not to the extreme of like science experiment on yourself.
Oh gosh, I could go there. It was way worse than I'm letting on, by the way.
I can only imagine.
We were clearing out the books in my room, oh my gosh, a little bit yesterday, for someone is doing a book sale. And I was looking at some of these books. I was like, oh my God, don't open that again, because it was like, you know, on a you know, doing things with your brain to investigate all these questions. Oh my gosh, yeah. Whew, that was intense.
Too much.
But I definitely, it honestly, I know I've benefited from it, because the question comes up, you know, people, you know, say, or you hear around, you know, but who are you without this? And I'm like, oh, I know who I am without this. I've taken it away. I do not need to do that again. So I probably lived my life a bit backwards. Maybe people do that afterwards, but it's definitely, it's like, and it is kind of the way, you know, science experiments can go, where you take away one variable and see what happens. That's what I did. And it's given me, but what it gave me is clarity on what I need as a human to excel. Because I know what happened when I took it away. And then I got to the bottom of it. I was like, okay, I'm definitely not doing this for you know, just pure recognition or for my ego. This is actually about, we need as humans to do something that sustains us, because life is hard. If you, especially if you're going after something worthwhile. And so it just gave me clarity about all of these components of life. And it was a really difficult time, because I was at my, like, in terms of confidence, you know, self-image, all of those things, I put myself in the most such a vulnerable position. So I'm always proud of myself for doing that. Yeah.
Did you sticking on the science experiment, did you determine that it was going to be 2 years? Like, or did it just no, like, why did it end up being 2 years? And then my second one was going to be, because we're sticking on science experiments, usually people are forced into that situation. So injury, illness, like external stresses, things at home, or like, I don't know, maybe they have a family, so they have no control over the fact that they can't do what they wanted to do, like physically or the sport. But you decided to put yourself in that situation. So do you think that changed because you controlled the variables instead of somebody outside controlling the variables, if we're going to go sciencey, do you think that had any impact on it? Because it's quite a crazy thing to do, because most people probably have been in the same situation, but it's been enforced on them rather than choosing to do it.
Do you have a science background? That's a really good question.
No, but I'll say I have PhD or something. Dr. Fay.
I love that question.
I have no science background, but I do quite like stuff like this. We can move off this topic in a minute for everybody.
Oh, I love it. So yeah, okay. No, no. Like when I was going after this, I was looking at like whatever I am giving my life to better be, worth it. And I think it also stemmed from the fact that the actual emotional, and I went through that first year on the scholarship team, I just really suffered emotionally, and I just kept pushing through, and I wasn't thriving on that end of things. It wasn't the way it wasn't what I wanted for my life. I thought that this setup, this everything was going to be exactly what I wanted, because it was my teenage dream to be in the position I was in, and then yet I was really suffering. And I don't forget that year, because of that level of, I suppose, emotional discomfort I was in, and how long I went on like that for. But I suppose after that realization and having that clarity, I questioned, was this what I was supposed to do with my life? And so when I took the break, I definitely did not put a time limit on it. No, this was this was about answering the question of, what do I want to dedicate my life to? Where do I want to put my precious energy towards? Because this is a decision. This is my life now. And I was I was in university in Scotland at the time. But just being me, I was thinking, I'm so and I have to again watch this, but I can be so precise, or seek for such precision with things, especially emotionally and mentally, that I have to be careful, because I think the human, us, as on the spiritual end of health, it doesn't work. We don't work in isolation. Everything is, where all of our systems are connected. And so I realized I was probably being too precise and isolating areas of my life too much. So, but sorry, no, I did not put a limit on it. I was going to do this experiment until life told me it was over. And it did that. I went to and again, being a bit of the potential to be a bit of an extremist, I went to the end. I went to the point where I was not thriving. I was, the questions had been answered. I had clarity, and I knew where I needed to go now to build myself back up, because I had torn myself down basically, not in every way, or definitely I might need, I was really enjoying my when I joined CrossFit, I had some of the best training sessions in my life, so, but then after that, I took a break and I went back, and I was on and off for a while, but emotionally, mentally, I definitely was tearing myself down a bit in order to find answers. And so I got to a point where, when I moved back home and, reality hit a bit, I was like, okay, end of the science experiment. This is now, we need to start building something solid and secure for my future to survive, this as well. Because I was entering it was no longer university life, it was real life. Like, I swear. And if you ask people in Scotland, I'd say they'd actually be able to say, I was just living in my, I will never have that time again to do that. It was a very unique time. I just was, I will never have the opportunity probably to live like that again in the way that where I was able to put my energy. So yeah, basically used it for that science experiment in the end, and came home, and yeah, then it was like, okay, let's start building something now, because like the challenges in life didn't stop, and yet I had a awareness that in order to thrive in the world today, I need to be strong, I need to be building something, and I need to be empowered. So that's when it ended, and I started building. In terms of, there's just something on that external stress you mentioned. I've definitely been in positions over and over again where I've been injured, obviously, as an athlete, and but that was so different to this. I was choosing to go and answer questions that I felt I needed to answer to really go full on in one direction with no doubts or very little doubts. But when training for me as a teenager, as a child, was a way that I survived my childhood situation, because it was without a doubt, training was my lifeline, and that is why I think now that lives on, that, because what something got you through and what it did for you. When I'm at training now, I don't question myself, but I definitely don't let other people question me. Outside of training, yeah, I have doubts all the time, and I'm constantly working on those. But in training, it feels for me, a very, you could say, maybe primal thing to do. It's where I don't touch that. Now I'm like, Aoife, don't mess with that. Don't question that again, because it's too valuable. It's got you through too much. It's giving you so much now. There's no reason for me to question that anymore. And so I think that's why when I'm at training, I just feel I'm different. I enter a different, but I embody something different when I'm in training. So yeah.
Science experiment concluded.
The end.
The end.
Never say never.
Not going back.
But I really don't want to go back, to be honest. But I suppose I'm always doing a science experiment in some way.
I know I was going to ask, do you feel like you just touched on there, like in training, like that's like your prime place, and you almost are this different version or person? Like, do you have that in race day as well? Do you have like a switch? Do you go into like a switch, like you have like race day mode sort of thing, or are you, how would you describe yourself in a race? Are you like chill? Are you nervous? Are you an animal? Are you very methodical? Are you like, does that make sense, my question?
I'm going methodical,
yeah,
for the science part.
But the crazy thing is, I am not into numbers. Like, I'm sorry, this is so, I'm probably so confusing right now, but that's why I need a coach, because and that's why when I was doing training just for pure fun when I did CrossFit, that guy or other, mainly I think it was guys, because 1 rep max, what's this, what's that, I'm like, I don't know, like, why are you asking me these things, like, stop. But now I'm far more clued into my pace and stuff like that, because I need to be, and that became necessary to progress. But on race day, I would see it's a similar embodiment to the person, the energy I become or exude when I'm racing. It doesn't really matter whether it's training or racing for me. I mean, training is not a race, like, obviously. That would just be too much on your nervous system to be entering that space. But I suppose the degree to which I mentally focus, and I am that part of me that's constantly searching for precision and accuracy in my execution of something. You could say perfectionist either. You know, that's always there. And that makes me become a different, I suppose, probably makes my demeanor change and my energy change. I'm just locked in basically. You know, when you're whether training or racing. With racing, I'm very I wouldn't say I'm relaxed. I am working on keeping my thoughts more streamlined coming up to a race. There's been one or two races this season where I was like way too nervous for. Um, and so we were actually only talking about it yesterday because my mum came with me to a race this season, and it was in Sweden. And she was laughing yesterday. She was like, Aoife, it's so fun. It's funny looking back at that episode that happened. I was like, no, it wasn't. I was like, Mom, I actually still don't find that funny at all, because I was stressed before the race. And I think, but as you iron other things out, as you begin working with, I suppose, people that you are there for you, all that stuff I think kind of sorts out. So I'm not too worried about that. And as I said, like for me, I know everything's about timing because of the way my life has played out so far. And so even with results, I'm really trusting that at the right time, it's all about, for me, alignment of my physical environment, the output I'm giving, my training program, my coaching relationship, my own habits and routines. I feel like they've been, in constant motion over the last season. And it's all about aligning those. And that's when the results really come. Up until that point, it's kind of just really hit and miss. And then you're going to be very nervous because it feels almost like throwing a dice, when I'm still very much in the stages of alignment and figuring out what way I want to do this. So I'm not panicking, at the minute about, if I haven't got the times yet. This season I want, because it's very much about alignment for me.
Yeah, and it's a young sport, isn't it? And you're young, so you've got a long time to progress in the sport, and it's much training, learning about the race, like everything aligning at the same time. I mean, Barcelona's this weekend. You're a teacher, and like obviously we follow you on social media, and you do a lot of, I mean, fair play to you. You do a lot of like eating your dinner in the car and like getting to sit, like the commitment, and you actually do quite like show what it takes to fit everything in, and you're very committed to what you do. But Barcelona this week, does it fall across like the holiday for you? So like right now, have you got a bit of like time and a bit of downtime to have your taper and you're not in school, or are you in school this week and then you've got to jump on a flight to get to Barcelona?
So we're actually on Easter holidays. We're very lucky in Ireland that teachers do get more time holidays than even in the UK, which is the main reason I actually haven't moved back to Scotland. Because the facilities are better. Like, oh my gosh, I'd love to move back to where I went to university in Stirling. Like, I still have training buddies there. I'm in contact with every day, I still go there when I can, to just train and, see them. So, and embrace the training vibes in that area. But yeah, I'm trying to remember what your question was. I'm sorry.
Just like no, don't follow it. Like as in everything's aligning. You obviously have to work pretty hard to fit all your training in, and like you live a very busy lifestyle, and you obviously have a high volume of training. But I was saying,
oh yeah.
Yeah, like Barcelona's this weekend. So do you have a bit of a downtime now leading into Barcelona? And do you think that's going to help you? Or do you think you might overthink things because you're not as busy and you can't just like you know, get everything, like live your life, and then suddenly you're just on a flight and you're just at the race and you just got to go. You know, how's this week panning out for you?
Yeah, so we are off. I was off last week. I'm off this week. We're very lucky in Ireland with these holidays we have. So I did a hard training week last week. I did my last real, hard threshold pushes on Saturday, just gone. So today is Monday. And now I am totally being careful what I'm doing, because if I've learned, again, another thing I've learned over this season is what I need to do in taper week, because I've talked to some athletes who like to keep it going, like just reduce their training load a little bit. But I actually feel like I store fatigue for quite long in my legs, just based on a few races I've done this season. I did Glasgow last minute, and I definitely learned what I need. I got clarity after that on what will work and what won't work for me. So even on my training program, I'd be very cautious as to what I'll do this week, and kind of take it as on a day by day basis. Go more by feeling than on paper, for sure. I trust myself in that regard. I know some people don't like to do that, but I kind of can't. I don't think I can do it any other way. And for me, being with so many things going on in my head, I suppose, with the teaching and training, logistics are huge. It takes up a lot of energy, planning, making, being an A, B, and C place every day, covering, getting flights, financially as well. That's takes up headspace. So this week is a lot about mentally sorting my head out, because the training's done. I don't like to do too much at all in the taper week. This is a taper week for me. I have weeks of hard training to get out of my legs, out of my muscles. So the priority this week is to do sharper sessions that I haven't been doing. So I'm looking forward to that. That's on the physical end, and also on the mental, emotional side, to really identify what is going on in my brain right now. What's my relationship with, what's my perspective on this race? What am I expecting of myself? And looking at that, I really like on the holidays and teaching, a lot of teachers would, meet up with their teacher friends or normal friends. And I just struggle a bit on these weeks. I kind of write it off in a way. I'd be very hesitant, cautious to the extra plans I'd make, even though I have technically all this extra time. But I'm such a deep thinker. I know this myself, and I need a lot of time to kind of decompress and to sort out my thoughts. And I suppose I just have that intensity, I suppose, about me, and the precision, and I do need time to be able to just let all of that kind of diffuse, that intensity, emotionally, mentally, physically, to diffuse. So that's what this week's all about.
Yeah, that sounds good. Makes sense for sure. And then I mean, you don't have to answer this, but obviously Barcelona's the last chance qualifier, so I presume the aim is to be in the top 3 to then qualify for the Elite 15. Have you already qualified in your age group for Chicago to race like in Worlds if you didn't achieve the A goal, or is it everything's all in on qualifying for the Elite 15, or how does your kind of end of season look? And if you want to keep your goals a secret, you can just say no. You can say no comment.
No comment. I'm joking. I'm happy to comment. Yeah, no, I have qualified for Worlds regardless, in age group category. So I'm going anyway. And yes, my goal is this weekend to get one of those qualifying spots. I was really doing that kind of reflection last night of sorting out just again mental awareness, emotional awareness in my own self. And you just, for anyone who is interested in that, like, I would just say, if you just sit down and think about your race and your goal and just see what thoughts start looming around. And then you get to decide what you want to believe and what thoughts you are going to choose. And then start every day building on that. So, pick the thoughts you want, and then every day you have to reinforce those thoughts. So that's what I'm on about when I talk about, the emotional awareness there. But in terms of the race, so that's what I really needed to do that before Barcelona. Because after I've probably raced too much this season, and I won't race as much next season. I really don't think I will. And I've learned again about that alignment, and until you gain experience as an athlete and realize, do enough races to see when it works, what worked, and when it didn't work, what didn't work, it can feel like throwing a dice. And I said this to my coach in a meeting we had the other day. I said, I still feel like up to this point, it's been a bit like throwing a dice, because my times and so much in my life is constantly changing. And as I get clarity on the way I want to do this, all the logistics are constantly in motion. And so I feel like this weekend, though, I'm going to be more aligned than I ever have this season. And that is what I'm using to say to myself that I'm a different athlete. This is a different experience. It's so easy. And again, this actually came from my coach last week. I said that previous races the last few races I've done have not been, they've been, to me, not near where I believe I can be and where I want to be. So, and he said, yeah, but you're a different athlete now. Look what you've gone through. Look at the training. You've totally changed your training over the last, month, let's say. And I know that's still a short time, but it's all, everything contributes. And so those type of things I've been saying to myself for Barcelona, because it's so easy as humans to expect what's already happened, as opposed to believing that your story and your life could be the kind of the odd one out, or the unlikely, the kind of the unlikely outcome, or to just imagine if, or to dream big, because most of the time life is kind of feels like it's on repeat. We don't have these big massive results every week, or even on a more daily kind of practical level. We don't get amazing news every day, or it doesn't feel like that. So it's easy to live in a state of just expecting the same results, same everything. But so you actually have to get in there, get in at your thoughts, like with a screwdriver, and change it up in there and say, hold on, what state of expectance am I living in? Because it's easy after my last few races to go into Barcelona and, yeah, I want one of those spots, but my thoughts, based on my last few results, could start saying to me, well, it could go that way. You could have another race that you're not that happy with. But I'm not choosing that. And you have to get, like I said, get in there, change the story, change the narrative constantly in your brain until you are happy with the perspective and the way you're approaching this. So I'm really excited to even be doing that this week, I love that process. That's a part of my process. And again, you know, like for me, this sport, it's the results and the racing is one part. I'm so interested in just human development in general. And I'm doing all of these kind of healthy experiments on myself now, you know. Even the other day in training, I was and I actually put this up on Instagram, and I couldn't believe how many people were interested in hearing about the I was mentioned about pain strategies, the strategies, mental strategies to manage pain mid-session. And I actually was just in the session and it was getting really hard. And I was like, okay, I have all these thoughts. This is really painful. How am I going to hold on to this pace and get through this session? I'm going to need to start compartmentalizing these thoughts and this pain, or else I'm just, it's not going to be enjoyable. You know, it's going to get worse and I could fall off this pace. So I'm just, yeah, interested in all of that. And I really actually am starting with that growing awareness in myself. I'm enjoying that this week, you know, like working on my emotional and mental health towards this race, and give myself the best chances of achieving my A goal.
Yeah. I mean, it's been really cool to like talk about the mental side, I guess, so much, because I think we always talk about the physical side. If you look at anything, everyone gets a coach for like to get faster, be faster at running, or to get stronger, or the mental side of this sport, I think, especially at the top level, is what sets everyone aside from being able to win or lose, or being able to break into that elite 15 or not. I mean, there must be like 30, 40 probably athletes that are similar, but just some probably have the mindset that can get them there and keep them there when the pressure's on. I mean, my background is like mountain biking, and there's some of the world's best mountain bikers who are incredible when they're not racing, but you get them in the start gate and you race, and then the some of the top racers are never break into that like top 10, top 20 in the world. But it's
crazy.
It's very different. Like, you have different athletes for different things, and just because you're the best athlete, you also need that mindset. To like, whether it's pain management, whether it's having the right mindset the week before to go into it, whether it's controlling the controllable. It's such an interesting topic, isn't it?
Yeah, so interesting. And it's not very talked about. And I think I'm glad, because it just shows like the parts of myself that I felt would have been maybe or could limit me or be, you know, I think people could say like a character flaw, you know, things that could get you into trouble. For example, you know, being a perfectionist, whatever. You can actually use those to become strengths. And I'm finding that the biggest frustrations and issues and pains I've had in my life are because I valued those aspects of, say, for example, emotional awareness. And for me, that's what I need in a coach. And when I didn't get that, I used to get very disheartened and just frustrated, and used to turn it on me and say, oh gosh, I'm too much. Why do I think, oh, they're right, I think too much about things and this and that. And yes, maybe you think, I definitely think too much, but once you have awareness of that, you can put limits on yourself and boundaries around it. But still, so you can get the best of both worlds, because then you're someone who really has an eye for accuracy and precision. And once you're not going off in the deep end and wasting energy when you don't need to, by going over and above what you can give, because that's when us perfectionists exhaust ourselves. You can use it to your advantage. And I'm realizing now that, and I'm really want to get in, I will get into coaching soon, because I just really am interested in human development, in every way, you know, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And a lot of coaches, I found they just don't have that interest. They don't have the aptitude there, or sorry, I shouldn't say aptitude, but the capacity, because they value certain things, and we all value different things, and that is totally fine. But you need to find someone who you can be yourself with, and that you don't feel that you're that those potential strengths, those areas of yourself that can be what separates you from the field, if harnessed correctly. But those things need to be managed, you know, they need to be managed.
Yeah, definitely. Just before we go on to the cheeky insights, the last questions that we've got for you, you said about the pain strategy on and strategies on when you're doing that session. Was that just you compartmentalizing your thoughts, or did you have like anything like vocal you said to yourself? If someone was listening and this afternoon they've got to go and do a threshold session and they're really putting it off and they don't want to do it and they know it's going to hurt, like, what is there anything you could tell them to try or say out loud, or I don't know, pinch themselves, or what kind of like thing were you talking about there?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, like, every session has a purpose and should have a purpose. And so the purpose of that session for me was to push really hard. So my heart rate was going into zone 5 there. You know, I think on my program, it was supposed to stay in LT2, which would be your higher end of the highest end of threshold. But I knew because I needed a good taper, this is going to be my last real big push in order to build up the mental reserves I need for this weekend. So I didn't mind. I was happy. I was intentionally choosing to push it. And so it was getting really painful. And I started doing this thing, and I just made it up, like, at the time, out of desperation, obviously, you know. And I did this thing where, instead of, when you're in pain, focusing on the pace that you're trying to hold, because that's what it all comes down to. You're trying to hold the pace. I had like 2 10-minute efforts. I was trying to hold on to my pace. I wasn't even 5 minutes in, and I was like, oh no, you know. And I was like, okay. And again, this is what I wanted from this session. I wanted to be in this red zone just for that day. I don't do that in every threshold session, just disclaimer. So I was definitely coming to the red zone, and I was like, right, how can I mentally make this more manageable? So I was realizing that me focusing in my mind on the pace was not helping. It was actually making me feel like I was hanging on to the edge of a cliff. So what I did was I made this kind of mental, I don't know, is this going to make sense, by the way, but I'll try my best. So instead of hanging on to the pace, I made an indirect connection to the pace in my head, visualized it. So I said, okay, I'm going to make these pain pockets in my head. I call them pain pockets. So you start your this could be a race. You start your race, or really hard session. You start your hard session. Okay, you feel fine. But halfway through that 10-minute effort, oh, okay, this is starting to hurt now. What am I going to do? Okay, now the pace is annoying me because I'm just thinking about it and I feel like I'm going to fall off the cliff. Right, let's change the visual we're telling ourselves. And I'm going to imagine that when it starts to hurt, I enter pain pocket 1. Pain pocket 1 is my pace stays the same, but I'm visualizing this pocket of time where I'm going to feel this degree of pain, but the pace stays the same. And it's a way of, I found, of accepting that I am going to be in this discomfort in order to hold on to this pace. But I'm not clinging to the numbers. I'm clinging to this visual of this pocket of time that is directly connected to my pace. But by holding on to this pocket of time, I am going to stay connected to my pace, because this pocket of time represents the degree, the level of discomfort that is connected to that pace. So say for the first 5 minutes of that threshold, you are in pain pocket. Maybe actually I'll make it more realistic. The first 2 minutes of this 10-minute threshold, you don't need to enter pain pocket because you're fine. Okay. But then you get to minute 2 and you're like, okay, I'm starting to really think about this pace now. And it's starting to bother me. It's not helpful. Right. Go to pain pocket 1. Imagine this zone where I'm in this level of discomfort. Then you get to minute 5 and it starts to hurt more. You go to pain pocket 2. And now you've accepted that you're in a different pocket of pain for X amount of time. But your pace hasn't changed, but your degree of discomfort has changed. But you're pocketing it in. It's only going to be for maybe 2 minutes. For the last 3 minutes of this 10-minute effort, it's expected you're going to hurt more. And that's supposed to happen because now you're in pain pocket 3 and the pace is still the same, but you are accepting that this is a different time. These are different minutes to minutes 1 and 2. And so that's just something that worked quite well for me. It was the first time I did it. And maybe people aren't. I'm a very visual person, obviously, and it helped. That helped. So that was my strategy.
Yeah, no, it's good to hear. It's interesting, and I do understand what you're saying and how you're breaking it up, and it's almost
like chunking it, isn't it? Like
yeah.
Like almost like chunking,
but accepting that it's a painful chunk. Yeah, like not expecting it to get easier because it's not going to. It's like you're expecting
and it's like there's like a pathway to it. There's a structure to it. I think when I get, when you're at the hardest parts of a race or training, you're because your body is trying to, it's alarms are going off internally, and then that's why we start thinking, doubtful thoughts, because your brain is trying to protect your body. So if you look at it just really pragmatically and practically and scientifically, we can really develop strategies to go beyond these, our thresholds, I guess. And I think, honestly, in general, when we're in that much discomfort, we need to be overly simplify the whole thing and put a structure there. And I find in life in general, there is a lack of structures I think we can use visuals so much more. And I probably coming from my teaching as well, background, that is how I would learn. But it just makes everything so much more manageable. And I don't like if you are in all this discomfort and you're just clinging to a number, it's not even helpful. It's actually discouraging and it's not even fun. So why don't we do something else and build these coping mechanisms to get the most out of ourselves? Yeah, I think that's where it's coming from.
Yeah. And like when you say like a 10-minute threshold pace, like 10 minutes is quite a long time. And you if you do any kind of exercise, like sometimes you do something for a minute, you're like, God, that minute is taking ages. So when you think like 10 minutes and you're in discomfort, it's like it just feels so huge. So like I guess by you saying these pain pockets, it kind of builds it into like, oh, there's 1, 2, 3. Like you've chunked it down. It doesn't feel as big as the 10 minutes, even though the pain's going to get more, or it just like makes it more I just guess more manageable. And then I guess the final question, I know you want to go on to cheeky insights, but like the final question is, did it help you achieve that session? Did it work?
It did. It actually did. And I was happy afterwards. I was thinking about it, and that's why I put it up on my Instagram, because I find because this is the way I am, the way I think, I feel like there are blind spots. When something is when we are who we are, we can have blind spots as to what's actually helpful for other people, because we just are that way, and this is what we value. And I'd value that information. But sometimes I'd be afraid of like, is this obvious to people? Is this how everyone thinks? And so when someone messaged me and said, oh, that is so helpful, I didn't share it, so it wasn't about that, but it was about something else. And they're like, this is so helpful. I was like, really? I was actually not going to put that up because I thought I'm stating kind of the obvious. But yeah,
that's so cool.
But I think actually, sorry about this session, I think I was probably being a bit ambitious with my pace was the main thing. So I did actually have to slow down for that second 10. I had two sections to the session, and it was the second 10 minutes after the first part of the session, and it was just, my heart rate was way too high. So I actually, it's about, I think experience allows you to realize, okay, hold on, this is actually, I'm not cutting corners, I'm not being lazy, this is actually what I shouldn't be trying to do this right now. And I was trying to do paces faster than on my program anyway, so the pace I settled at was on the lower end of what I was supposed to be doing, but I just was curious and wanted to
little
try
experiment.
the little one.
So good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Probably a coach's worst nightmare in a way, actually. And I get that. And I have to be open about this. I want to get into coaching. So I'm happy to be, if coaches say you are really hard to, I know. I'm sorry. I'll still pay you.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Okay, shall we go on to the cheeky insight questions to round us off?
Yes,
quick fire.
Okay.
Yes, the first one is, what shoes do you wear to race Hyrox?
Puma Nitro Elites.
Yeah,
currently.
Good shoe. Next one, which has been your favorite Hyrox venue to race in?
Probably Nice, World Champs last year, because it was open, it wasn't as crowded as usual, and I raced early, so it was cool. It was cool temperature. Yeah,
nice. Okay, next one, which is your favorite Hyrox station?
To race, Farmers, Carry, and Hull. I like that you can make that really mechanical. You can kind of just enter machine robot mode. I think we need some more of that. To train is different though. I love burpees, and it makes me sad that I'm not better at them. So I'm really trying hard, and I'm going to be really good at them. I'm so determined to just, because I love the movement. I thought in Hyrox it would be like my best station. It's not. So I'm so determined because I just love the movement and I love the varieties you can do. And I also like wall balls in training.
Oh, okay.
So basically all of them.
Well, four out of the 8, yeah.
4 out of
that. Okay, next up is, if you could do a doubles Hyrox with anyone in the world, who would you choose?
Oh, I wrote down James Kelly because I've listened to him in some recent interviews, and he seems very methodical, very attention to detail oriented, and he seems like a nice guy. So him or Lauren Weeks. Lauren just seems like such a good, decent human. I'm really happy she's the face, I guess, of the sport at the minute, because watch one of her, she has a YouTube channel now, watch one of her videos and you can see she would be doing this with or without all of the extra stuff. So it's lovely to see.
Yeah, 100% agree. Both lovely people, and just it's really cool to see, especially like you say with Lauren in the YouTube, like how she's managing everything and just lives and breathes the sport, loves it, got a little girl running around. It's
absolutely. And it's just so it's actually like funny like to see. It's like that a woman would be doing this anyway. You know, even if Hyrox was the most under broadcasted, uninstagrammable sport ever, she would just do it anyway. She'd be doing it anyway. And I just love that. I think she's just she's really on a, again, coming back to the human that the athlete is. I love, I value that. And she just seems, I'd love to meet her.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you'll be racing against her soon.
Hopefully.
Next one. Do you fuel during Hyrox? And if so, what do you have and when do you take it in the race?
Yes, I do. I take a gel, usually after the rower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Favorite type of training session for Hyrox, if you have a favorite style? Or
so in terms of fun factor, definitely the Hyrox modality sessions. So anything with broad jump burpees in it, and I have a nice clear space to do them in. Some machine interval work, sled pull, just like a mix of everything. It's just like the best day ever. It's just so much fun. So something mixing everything.
Yeah. Bit of variety.
It's rare though. Usually I would do, like, say at the end of a strength training session, like a 15-minute AMRAP with maybe 2 or 3 max movements in it. Even they're the really good fun. You know, like I think the other day I did 30-meter burpee broad jumps and 20-meter heavy sled pull, and that was like the highlight of my day. So doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be everything.
It doesn't need to be complex.
Okay, next up, in a nutshell, why should someone sign up for their first Hyrox?
In order to build self-awareness of themselves in every way, physically, emotionally, spiritually, every way, and to be empowered in themselves, because like I said, training can be a place where you can embody a different part of yourself, and that fuels the rest of your life. So you don't know what this sport can give you. And also it's a good thing for anyone who's worried about, you know, their back or their, you know, it always seems to be the back with maybe like parents, or a lot of women. I think it's everything can be linear. You know, lunges are linear, burpees are quite linear. You know, where you're not doing your push up, handstand, walking. You know, so it's good for you, and it's good for you, and it's empowerment. It's going to empower you.
Yeah, good answer. It is true as well.
I thought you were going to say, like, just experiment and give it a go.
That's too generic of an answer for me, Faye. And then you can do experiments. When you get good, then you can try to do experiments.
Last one, we're gonna get a scientist answer here. Is there anyone that you would like to see on our podcast that we could interview, find out more from, or a type of person in the Hyrox world that you would like to learn a bit more about?
Have you interviewed Lauren?
Yeah, we did in the summer,
but a while ago.
Oh my gosh, how did I miss that? I have to go and watch it. Jade Skillen is interesting. She knows a lot about the mental, spiritual side of things, and I've had 1 or 2 really cool conversations with her. She has a depth of knowledge there, and I think on that area, she's probably the only so far, and I'm sure there are others, but I just haven't had the opportunity to speak to them. But I know Jade has knowledge there, so on that side, and she values that so much. You know, even on her Instagram page, she has, you know, something like mental and spiritual you know, she values that. When a lot of athletes, it's just all plow through it all. You know, she doesn't work that way. So she doesn't have that approach. So that's fresh, and it's unique, and I would connect with that.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's funny. We were in Sharjah with Jade at the weekend, and then we were trying to make it happen while she was in Dubai. And then we've been trying to do. Jade was one of the very first. We were going to go on the podcast, and we still haven't made it happen. So
Jade, if you're listening,
Jade, come on, like, yeah, it's we just are. Every time we try and schedule something, like, it just doesn't work. So it's on both sides, but we will get there. So when we finally do.
I'll message her. I'll tell her.
Tell her you just suggested that it should be her.
Yeah, okay, I will. So I was like, expect the email, expect the message, and say yes. I'll just say also, like, I go to these races, and it honestly ends up being one of the best parts. Okay, there's nothing better than when your race goes well, okay? But even if a race doesn't go well, like, I just come away feeling so encouraged, and I think nurtured by conversations I have with other athletes I've never met, because we're all off on our own little planets, which can be a bit isolating sometimes, because we don't all have like big training groups around. You know, that's not really realistic, in my opinion. And so when you meet someone after the race and you get to hear where they come from and what their background is, I think, I find it so interesting. So I know I'm naming names that a lot of people know, but I believe it does not have to be that. Like, I've heard some amazing stories from athletes who just aren't into Instagram, you know, and they don't want to do that. And I think athlete stories are just amazing in general, and I love when I see on YouTube, you know, like companies just valuing that and showing the stories, because a good story is a good story, no matter how many followers you have, you know.
100%.
I like to see that as well, the empowerment of just general, you know, people who or great athletes that just maybe just don't want to be on Instagram all the time, you know.
Yeah. And there is, I mean, there's so many incredible athletes, and we're seeing that, aren't we? Like Hyrox is just getting stronger and stronger, and everyone's coming across, and not everyone's on Instagram, and it's nice that not everyone is. It's keeps
I hope that there is, absolutely. And I think an interesting thing about, like, with Hyrox is we all come from so many different backgrounds, that if you go to triathlon, like where I come from, or especially running, it's not, Instagram is not, like, this whole social media thing, it's not a big thing there. And it's just not the culture. And I hope that and I know more of different athletes from all these different backgrounds will hopefully will bring that authenticity and purity to the sport. And I'm excited to see where it will go, you know, and highlighting maybe that fact and that side of sport as well. So
yeah, totally agree. But so, talking about that, where can everyone follow you? Instagram?
Where can people? Yes,
you know, on that note of pure sport, and we usually find out where everyone can follow people. So, you know, we've got our Instagram, you've got yours.
Oh no, listen, it's all, why are you doing this? Why are you doing it? I love Instagram. Oh gosh, I've dug myself a hole now. Instagram's amazing. It's an amazing tool. I love, it's a way I love.
Exactly.
It's a tool. And even I say to my, you know, the students I teach, you know, social media isn't bad. It's just, have a purpose on it and use it. Once you're not a passive consumer, we can't do that. It's just not good for our brains. Find something you love and you're good at, and put your focus there and use these tools. And so I definitely use Instagram as a tool I love making videos when I have the time, you know. And people can find me. Whether racing or not, you know, I post about training anyway, because that's why I'm where my connection is and where it started. So they can find me on Instagram at Aoife.in.training. So Aoife in training.
Perfect. And we'll link it all anyway, and we'll like put everything up when we get the episode out. But
great.
Yeah, a massive thank you for your time, for like a really great insight into a different side of training, a different side of competing. I think maybe we'll give people a lot to think about, and maybe they'll like try. I don't know whether they'll do an experiment, but like maybe someone will. But like maybe they'll try and find their purpose or work out,
it's just about being curious
and
having a question and then going out and finding the answer and doing it in a not in a reckless way, in a controlled way, because that's what science experiments are, control. And by the way, this wasn't all meant to be a science experiment, it just ended up that way. But
no, it's like I'm thinking about the title of the podcast now. It's like Aoife Fay, the big science experiment or something, the big hybrid experiment or something. I don't know.
Let's see. You could say hybrid experiment, because I've definitely been experimenting with all these. Maybe that's why I do all these different things, because one thing just doesn't satisfy me. Yeah. So anyway,
No,
they can
awesome.
find me there.
That's it. And anyone that wants to hit Aoife up, head over to her Instagram. If you enjoyed this episode, please give her a shout, give us a shout. If you do decide to do any of your own experiments, tag us. Let us know what's going down.
Let us know what you're experimenting with.
We'd love to know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Give us a follow, share the show, and we will see you on the next episode.